Loyal guardian Michael sat at the outdoor café, enjoying his morning coffee as Zeus, his German shepherd, rested calmly beside him. Though the day had begun peacefully enough, the atmosphere shifted when a group of bikers pulled up nearby. Their laughter grew increasingly loud with one man, Chuck, seeming to command the attention of the others. Zeus remained still by Michael's side, but anyone watching closely could see he was on full alert. His muscles were tense, his eyes tracking Chuck's every movement. He wasn't just a dog, he was a guardian, trained to protect at all costs. Chuck approached Michael's table, oblivious to the watchful eyes of other patrons. "You've got a nice-looking dog here, don't you?" he said playfully, though with a hint of disdain. Michael offered a polite smile. "Thanks. Zeus is my best friend." "Zeus, huh? Greek god's name. Let's see if he lives up to it." Before Michael could respond, Chuck reached out suddenly toward Zeus's snout. The German shepherd didn't attack but took a defensive step back, letting out a low, warning growl. Tension thickened the air, and uncomfortable silence fell over the area. "Easy there, boy," Chuck said, raising his hands as if merely joking, though a gleam of challenge shone in his eyes. Michael, still not fully grasping the situation, placed a calming hand on Zeus's neck. "Sorry if he scared you," Michael said sincerely. Chuck laughed, but his pride seemed wounded by the dog's reaction. He stepped back, only for his friends to begin teasing him. "So, Chuck, you're going to let a dog put you in your place?" That single taunt changed everything. Chuck looked back at Zeus with a smile full of intent. The biker leader glanced around, noticing people watching, some even filming with their phones. He hesitated briefly, but wasn't one to back down. "Relax, guys, it's just a dog," he said dismissively. Zeus, however, knew the difference between play and danger. He kept his eyes fixed on Chuck, waiting. "Zeus, what's wrong?" Michael whispered. The German shepherd remained vigilant, his gaze never leaving Chuck. Chuck took several steps back, but it wasn't retreat. His friends continued their taunts, fueling his bruised pride. He stared at Zeus, seemingly daring the dog to move. The tension became almost palpable. Michael, still unaware of the malicious looks or looming threat, tried lightening the mood. "He doesn't like it when people come on too strong. Maybe that scared him." Chuck ignored the comment. He glanced at his friends, then at the onlookers, as if seeking approval for his next action. With a cold smile, he stepped toward Zeus, extending his hand again. Zeus growled, a low, clear warning that made several patrons flinch with concern. "Come on, big guy," Chuck said with forced bravado. "Are you as tough as you look?" Before Zeus could react, Chuck lightly tapped Michael's chair, a move that caused Zeus to rise in one swift, firm motion. The dog didn't charge but shifted to full alert, his body tense like a bowstring. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and more phones appeared to capture the scene. Michael, sensing Zeus's change in behavior, furrowed his brow with concern. "What's going on here?" he asked, voice edged with worry. Chuck laughed nervously. "Nothing, really. We're just messing around." A woman at a nearby table stood up. "Hey, you need to stop this," she said firmly. "Leave the dog alone." Her voice echoed across the sidewalk, and for the first time Chuck hesitated. He looked around, noting the disapproving stares. Zeus remained motionless but watchful, ready to respond to any threat. Chuck narrowed his eyes at the woman but said nothing. The crowd grew increasingly uncomfortable as Chuck took another step back, not in retreat, but in preparation for something else. "Relax. We're just having fun," he said dismissively, trying to salvage his image while inwardly feeling the need to assert dominance. Zeus observed every movement precisely, reading Chuck's intentions. Michael tightened the leash, murmuring, "Zeus, calm down." "What's going on?" Suddenly, Chuck made his move. He pretended to back away, then kicked a nearby chair toward Zeus. The metal struck the ground with a clatter, startling several patrons. Zeus dodged it effortlessly and growled more audibly, a clear warning that his tolerance had limits. "Hey, stop!" the woman shouted again, more forcefully. Others joined in, demanding Chuck cease his harassment. "What's the problem? You've never seen someone play with a dog before?" Chuck's forced casualness contrasted with his clenched fists, an obvious loss of control. Zeus stood firm, eyes locked on Chuck, analyzing every movement. Michael finally realized something serious was happening. He stood slowly, gripping Zeus's leash tightly. "Can someone tell me what's going on here?" he asked, concern evident. Before anyone could answer, Chuck stepped toward Michael intimidatingly. The crowd held its breath as Zeus lowered his head slightly, preparing to defend his owner at all costs. "What's wrong, buddy? Hiding behind your dog?" Chuck mocked with bitter laughter. Michael remained composed despite his trembling voice. "Zeus never hides me from anything. He's here to protect me, and it seems like he knows something I don't." Zeus's growl intensified as the crowd's discomfort grew more vocal. An older man finally stood up from a nearby table. "Hey, this has gone too far. You should leave before something bad happens." Chuck ignored the advice, though discomfort showed clearly on his face. The silence shattered when Zeus barked loudly, a deep, firm sound that made Chuck step back instinctively. The crowd reacted with surprise. Some filmed while others backed away. "Zeus, it's okay. I'm fine," Michael said, trying to calm the dog. But Zeus remained focused on Chuck, unconvinced. In a final attempt to save face, Chuck impulsively stepped forward and reached to push Michael's shoulder. Zeus reacted instantly, positioning himself between them with remarkable speed. He didn't attack, but stood firm with slightly bared teeth, a final warning. Complete silence fell over the street. Chuck froze as Zeus's gaze bore into him. Michael, now understanding the gravity of the situation, spoke firmly. "I think it's best if you leave now." The crowd began murmuring against Chuck, who realized he'd lost control. Without another word, he backed away, his embarrassment poorly hidden. His friends followed silently, and within moments, the group vanished around the corner. The morning's tranquility had been replaced by tense murmurs. Even without sight, Michael sensed the shift in energy. The distant motorcycle engines faded as people discussed what they'd witnessed. Zeus remained alert, his body still tense. Michael noticed a subtle tremor in the dog's paws. "Zeus, it's okay now, buddy," he murmured, crouching to stroke the German shepherd's fur. Zeus hesitated, his gaze fixed on where Chuck had disappeared, as if sensing this wasn't a temporary threat, but a potential recurring problem. Michael gently touched Zeus's snout. "You feel something I don't you?" These simple words carried deep meaning, reflecting his unwavering trust in his companion. As the crowd dispersed, the woman who had confronted Chuck approached. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice still quivering with adrenaline. Michael nodded, though concern creased his brow. "I'm fine. But Zeus? He's never reacted like this before. He knows when something's wrong, and that worries me." She crouched to observe Zeus closely. "This dog? He's not ordinary, is he?" Michael sighed, his expression mixing pride with melancholy. "Number. He was a K9, trained to protect, serve, and sacrifice everything if necessary, but that was years ago. I thought he'd left it all behind. Now he's my guide, my family." The woman studied Zeus's eyes. "Maybe he never forgot who he is," she whispered. The older man who had intervened joined them. "Listen, son," he began, his voice deep with wisdom. "Dogs like him have instincts beyond our understanding. He didn't react like that by chance. You should trust him and stay alert. That man, Chuck, He doesn't seem like the type to give up easily. Michael tightened Zeus's leash gently as the German shepherd gazed at him with expressive eyes. Their moment was interrupted by distant engine rumbles, not approaching but not completely gone either. Michael stroked Zeus's head, trying to dismiss his concerns as imagination, but the tremor in Zeus's body suggested otherwise. This incident was merely the beginning of something much larger, a test of Zeus's loyalty and Michael's ability to face the unexpected. Though the cafe confrontation had seemingly ended, Zeus remained vigilant. Even lying beside Michael, his breathing was quick, his eyes tracking every movement. Sensing the dog's unease, Michael decided to leave. "Thanks for sticking around. I think Zeus and I need some fresh air," he said to the remaining onlookers before starting down the sidewalk. Their daily walk home felt laden with new significance. Michael couldn't see their surroundings, but Zeus's behavior spoke volumes. The dog remained tense, his posture indicating continued alertness, a constant reminder that something remained amiss. At Michael's apartment, he unclipped the leash, allowing Zeus to move freely. "You're acting strange today, buddy," Michael remarked while finding Zeus's water bowl. The German shepherd inspected every corner before sitting by the door, ears perked for external sounds. "What's going on, Zeus? You never do this." As Michael contemplated the morning's events, he recalled stories about Zeus's canine background, how his danger detection had saved lives. Those instincts seemed to be resurfacing. "Are you trying to tell me something, boy?" Michael asked, stroking Zeus's fur. The dog wagged his tail slightly but kept watching the door. Outside, a motorcycle rumbled in the distance. Zeus tensed immediately. Michael didn't hear it but felt the dog's reaction. He placed a reassuring hand on Zeus's shoulder. "Whatever it is, we're in this together," he promised softly, unaware how soon that commitment would be tested. Evening arrived peacefully, enveloping the neighborhood in calm. Michael sat at his dining table slicing an apple while Zeus rested nearby. The earlier tension lingered, an unspoken weight neither could ignore. "Maybe I'm just overthinking this, huh, buddy?" Michael murmured, fingers brushing Zeus's fur. The dog's ears twitched as he stared at the front door, anticipating something invisible to Michael. The quiet shattered with approaching engine sounds. Zeus stood immediately, rigid and alert. Michael froze. "What is it, Zeus?" he asked, voice steady but concerned. The engine stopped abruptly, followed by heavy silence. Michael reached for his phone with trembling fingers. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself despite his pounding heart. A sharp, deliberate knock echoed through the apartment. Zeus growled, positioning himself protectively between Michael and the door. Michael gripped Zeus's leash tightly as he stood. "Who is it?" he called firmly. Only faint murmurs answered initially. "I'm not opening the door until you say who you are," Michael insisted. Finally, a deep, vaguely familiar voice responded. "Relax, man. It's just me, Chuck." Michael shivered as Zeus barked sharply. "What do you want?" he asked suspiciously. Chuck's tone became falsely casual, though menace underlay his words. "Just wanted to talk, man. No hard feelings from earlier, right?" Michael weighed his options while Zeus remained poised for action. The silence stretched uncomfortably before Michael responded. "You need to leave," he said, resolutely. The murmurs outside grew louder before footsteps retreated. Yet neither Zeus nor Michael relaxed. Something about the encounter felt unfinished, like an approaching storm gathering strength. Michael paced his living room while Zeus moved to the window, sniffing anxiously. "What is it, Zeus?" Michael asked rhetorically, increasingly certain that Chuck hadn't finished whatever game he was playing. Minutes later, muffled footsteps broke the silence, deliberate movements circling the apartment building. Zeus barked sharply, his body tense. Michael's heart raced as he fumbled for his phone to dial 911. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, while Zeus growled steadily by the door. Michael explained the situation to the emergency dispatcher. "There's someone outside my apartment. I think they mean trouble." The dispatcher assured him officers were en route, but each minute stretched endlessly. Outside, the footsteps approached. Then came an ominous scraping against the window pane that chilled Michael's spine. The scraping stopped abruptly, followed by muffled cursing. Zeus barked louder, pressing against the door as if challenging the intruder. Michael backed into a corner, gripping Zeus's leash tightly. "They're coming, Zeus," he murmured steadily despite his fear. "Just hold on." Finally, police sirens wailed in the distance. The footsteps outside ceased immediately, replaced by someone running away. Zeus remained alert, his growl softening but not disappearing. Michael exhaled with relief. "They're here." "Thank you," he whispered into the phone. Though he realized this confrontation was far from over. Chuck had crossed a line and Michael needed to prepare for whatever followed. Police lights illuminated the street as two officers approached. Zeus stood vigilantly by the door as Michael opened it cautiously. "Officers, thank you for coming," he said with forced steadiness. Zeus remained alert, eyes scanning the shadows as if sensing lingering danger. Michael recounted everything, the café confrontation, and the suspicious sounds around his apartment. "He didn't do anything physical," he admitted while gripping Zeus's leash. "But he's unpredictable, and I know he'll come back." One officer knelt to pet Zeus, noting the dog's continued vigilance. "Your dog's instincts are sharp. If he's this agitated, you're right to be cautious." The officers discovered fresh footprints near Michael's window, but found no sign of Chuck or his companions. "He's probably long gone," one officer said, without much conviction. They advised Michael to stay inside, keep his phone accessible, and call if anything else happened. "We'll increase patrols in the area, but if you feel unsafe, don't hesitate to leave for the night." Michael nodded, though he had no intention of fleeing. This was his home, and he wouldn't let Chuck take that from him. After the officers departed, silence weighed heavily in the apartment. Michael sat on his bed with Zeus lying watchfully at his feet. He stroked the dog's back, finding comfort in the familiar motion. "I don't know what's coming next, Zeus," he murmured, "but I know you'll be ready." Zeus's ears perked at Michael's voice, and for the first time that evening, his tail wagged faintly, a small reassurance amid uncertainty. Michael eventually fell into fitful sleep while Zeus remained by the door, a protective barrier between his owner and the outside world. Their bond had never felt stronger, forged through shared fear and trust. Whatever Chuck planned, Michael knew one certainty: he wasn't facing it alone. Zeus was more than a guide dog or former K9. He was a guardian, a partner, and a testament to the strength found in standing together.